I'd rather like to understand how you came to understand its use case in places like Cuba, which, as far as I know, most people haven't been to. So,
The whole Cuba story for me personally is one where you have to rewind back to 2016, back when Obama was in power. And he goes to Havana, right, in this historical trip, and it looks like there's this great reset in the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba. And as a young person that was entrepreneurial and spoke Spanish, I said, "Wow, this is a fantastic opportunity to go to Cuba and try to start something." Now, this was a terrible mistake for reasons that you're going to find out about soon. But that's what I thought at the time. So in 2016, I went to Cuba, made some contacts, etc., and I ended up within the 2 years, I kind of had a business there that had employees, that had suppliers. What we did was basically sell tourism services online. So it was mostly accommodation, some transportation. By the peak of things, we were running something like 25% of Cuba's sort of hostel bed inventory online. We're doing all the online marketing and inventory management, all of that stuff for them. And in 2018, I kind of fell down the crypto rabbit hole, as people like to say, for two different reasons. First of all, I discovered that it was a lot cheaper for me to move money into Cuba via cryptocurrency. So what I did back then,
why is
okay,
that?
I want to give you. Sorry,
Yeah, why?
let's take a step back. I'm going to give your audience a little bit of a context of around the Cuba situation, what Cuba is, the laws around Cuba, etc., because I think particularly the American audience might not be fully aware. So the business that I was running, which is a tourism e-commerce thing, is completely legal. Like I had a European registered company that was paying taxes. I wasn't breaking any U.S. laws around sanctions, etc. I did no business with the Cuban government. I did no business with Cuban government, military owned hotels, etc. These are all activities that the US government encourages, in fact, and were part of Obama's big plan. And to this day are legal, and they always, I mean, they have been for a long time, etc. So let's get that out of the way. I don't want to be, accused of being a sanctions violator, etc. So I was running this business, and then I discovered that for me, as a European person that has a European company, the cheapest way of actually moving money into Cuba that I needed to do to pay off suppliers and pay off people that I had to pay there, employees, etc., was actually to buy Bitcoin in Europe and sell it in Cuba. So that was one of the things that kind of opened my eyes to
So,
What's the process of selling Bitcoin in Cuba look like? Like, what do both ends of that transfer look like?
Okay, I'm going to caveat this with the fact that this was
Sure.
2018, 2019. Since COVID, I've not been familiar with the market. But basically, the way it worked is you kind of found someone in a Telegram group or something like that, and you message them and you built up a relationship, and they agreed to either give you the cash in person or to wire you the money, and you sent them the coin. There's no exchanges operating in Cuba at the time. I think to this day there aren't any exchanges operating.
so my question here is, why is it so expensive to move fiat currency? Whatever. If you're using pounds and you're in London, if you're using U.S.
Yeah.
dollars in America, and I assume I know the answer to this, but I would like to hear I'd like to
Yeah.
hear you explain it.
So it's very expensive to move money to Cuba because Cuba is sanctioned. A lot of Cuba's economy is sanctioned under U.S. laws. So even if you're doing something that's completely legal, if you're a big dog like Airbnb or Booking.com, you have clever lawyers and clever bankers and good banking relationships, so you can actually figure out how to move money there. It's actually quite interesting. The way Airbnb moves money to Cuba right now is they have, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if this is true, but I know it's true that they use a company called Bakuba, which has some dodgy Miami links. And the rumors I heard, I'm not sure these are true, but what I've been told is they literally fly someone over from Miami to Havana every single week with a bunch of cash to do this. So the US sanctions make it very impossible. You can't really use SWIFT to wire money to Cuba. The only European banks that will allow you to do them are, funnily enough, state-owned European banks. So state-owned European banks will let you use a SWIFT messaging service to send money to Cuba because, as you guys know, Europe does not sanction the US, and the state banks are, brave enough to try to do this. Effectively, the cheapest fiat way that we'd found to move money to Cuba was literally like I sent over a bunch of debit cards to the people that worked there,
Hmm.
and they went to an ATM and withdrew cash. And that cost us roughly 5%. Now, if you can think of that, that's 5% of your expenses as a business. That's quite a lot of money. When we're doing the Bitcoin transactions, we were actually getting paid 10% above market value to sell Bitcoin because at the time the market was so new. We were one of the biggest players there, and we ended up making significant profit on that.
Is that due to arbitrage? Like you would purchase it for some price in let's say London, and then you would send that Bitcoin over, and essentially, I assume, and tell me if I don't want to accuse you of anything, but essentially up market a little bit because demand is higher in Cuba for it, or
Basically, at the time, that was the case. At the time, this is no longer true, by the way, but at the time, there was such little liquidity and so high demand for cryptocurrency in Cuba that you could sell it for more than the spot rate internationally. By the way, if you guys follow peer-to-peer markets, this sort of thing is uncommon but not unheard of. This does
yeah.
happen quite a lot. The kimchi premium is known, right? In Korea as well, you get premium for cryptocurrencies depending on
Iran
what's
for a
going on.
while had a very nice, big, thick premium as well. Yeah, sanctioned countries that don't have access to U.S. dollars tend to see a bit of a spiked premium. Although Korea is a different. I don't know. It's a weird case.
Korea's capital controls mostly. And then there's a very, very interesting case of countries that have a discount. Colombia has had a persistent discount for a very long time. Haven't really seen anyone write about it, but it's been there and
Why is
it
that?
exists.
Do you have any theories?
I don't know. I don't have, I mean, my theories are basically speculation, but there's someone in Colombia that really needs to sell Bitcoin through peer-to-peer markets. I don't know what that means.
Wonder who that could be.
So, but on the other side, can you talk about some of the things that drive demand in places like Cuba and why there is so much demand for cryptocurrency in places like that?
Okay, so basically, in Cuba, if you want to get your money out of the country, you don't really have any other way of doing it. If you wanna, if you're like, Cuba is not the way that many people in the U.S. or Miami imagine it to be. There are many people who are small business owners in Cuba that may have amassed, substantial amount of money. They're not by no means multimillionaires, but they're people that own a restaurant or a hotel and they make okay money because they sell to foreigners. If you want to say move out of the country and go to Miami or go somewhere that doesn't have power cuts every day, you need to get your money out of the country. Now that isn't possible in Cuba because they have capital controls. So the only thing you can really do is you can sell for cryptocurrency and move it out, or you can use sort of other unofficial money mules and people that will do this as a service. So that's one of the sources of demand for cryptocurrency in Cuba.